welcome to Talkies. This is Tara Sahota, and yes, I'm back with another episode of this channel. As I promised last time, I'm back to discuss about communication. Today we are going to talk about how communication is important for us and how can we improve on our communication. Well, we need communication everywhere. As I told you that the speech is the way we are expressing ourselves, the way we are conveying our messages to others, and it's really very important when you're going to sit for an interview or when you're going to, giving your presentations, which are the things that you need to be careful about. And communication, that's the reason that why I've chosen this as the very first topic, that we want to learn about the basics of when we are going to talk, when we are going to converse with each other, when we are going to sit for the interview sessions or speaking session whatsoever. Communication, we are going to learn like the broader ways how we can define it, which are the factors influencing communication, which are the types of communication, and which are the various things where we can work on. So today I am going to help you out to learn all those things, and we'll also learn how we can actually do an implementation for all those things, which we'll learn as a theory, and we'll do the practical as well. So let's just start over. First of all, how we can just get an idea of communication. So if we say that good communication is about more than just speaking, and it includes listening and context. It requires taking time to consider the point of view of others as well, and it requires willingness to engage at level one's own self-interest as well. And the other things that I was going through dictionaries to search for how we can actually define communication, and I found that communication is actually the transmission of a message or information by speaking or writing. Well, if we just simply like to define, I just want all of you to remember a few things. Out of them, there are kind of 4 things which you should remember whenever we are keeping this thing in mind about communication. So the first thing, there is always a message. There is no communication which is without a message. So the first factor is message. Another thing is sender. Who is the person who's sending that, who's giving that message? Another thing is there will always be a mode of transmission of that message. And the fourth part is the receptor. So that's the final end where we actually want to convey our message. So we have to remember that we need to work on all these 4 factors whenever we want to communicate, or whenever we are going to give our interviews, whenever we are talking to in a group of friends, or we are giving our presentations. So we should be clear with our message. The sender should be clear with what he is giving. There are various things which will depend on the sender, there are various things which will depend on the message, and there are various factors which are going to influence the transmission of that message. And at the end, when it has to reach the receptor, there are a few factors to affect that as well. So let's see what all things are there. So basically, we can actually define, or we can divide communication into 2 types. First is the verbal communication, and the second one is non-verbal communication. There are few things listed down under verbal and non-verbal. So let's go one by one on each one of them. The first thing is, among the verbal communication, there is spoken and written. So verbal communication, we can consider spoken as well and written as well. Another thing is, the second part which we can consider under verbal is the tone, the way we are speaking, the volume in which we are sending that message, the cadence, cultural differences, jargons, and slangs. So let's see them in details. Yes, let's go to them one by one. So as I told you that spoken and written, they both considered as the verbal. So whatever we are speaking, that is your verbal communication. And even when we do written, you do write applications for jobs, you send in your resumes, and you write letters. Now I know this era is not the one where you write letters to your friends or relatives, but you do WhatsApping, you do write messages on Facebook. You still need a language, you still need to write things, maybe not formally, but non-formally as well. So both speaking and written thing will be considered as the, kind of verbal communication. Another part is tone. Now that's very important. What is the tone, how you are giving that message? If your tone is not good, even though your message was kind and humble, it will not be accepted as kind and humble if your tone is actually not matching with the message. And sometimes you have to actually give a very aggressive message, but your tone is actually not matching with that, so the other people are not going to get influenced with that. So we really have to understand what is the tone, how we are giving that message. Then comes the volume. it's definitely very important how you are, like what kind of volume you're using to give that message. If you're sitting or giving a presentation in a group, and you need to have an idea what is the dimensions of that room, how many people are there in the room. If you do not have the mic or any other aids to speak, you have to actually accelerate your own volume. If you're speaking too low, the other person will fall asleep and they will have no intentions to listen to you any further. So we really have to be mindful of our volume and our tone. Okay, let's go to the next one. The other one portion is cadence. Now cadence means the rhythm or the modulation, how you are speaking something. The way we speak should never go in kind of monotonous tone. If you're becoming too monotonous, you're speaking like the whole 30 minutes talk, it's the same pace, I bet you people will have no interest to listen to you, and they won't be able even to remember what you have just said to them. So if you want your talks to be effective, if you want that your presentation should be heard and your boss should appreciate you, and you should be definitely recognized or acknowledged for your presentations and your works and your interviews, you have to pay attention about the rhythm or cadence of your talks, of your speech. The other very important part is using jargons. Now, being professional or being part of one profession like doctors, nurses, engineers, any technical part, or somebody is belong to a particular profession, they are definitely good in those words or those professional language or those terminologies. They are aware of its what is the meaning of those terms. But what matters is when you are in a different group who does not belong to that profession, they will feel left out and they will lose interest in your talks when you are using your professional terminologies, having those discussions. Suppose you're in a wedding and you are continuously talking in your own, suppose a medical terminology or a IT terminology, people will lose interest even in talking to you. Probably they will try to say you bye-bye to finish up that talk. So try to keep that in mind, that whenever you are in a different professional group, try to not impose your professional language, which we call jargons. Try to avoid them. But by all means, when you are definitely giving a presentation to your own boss, definitely that belongs to your profession, use that language that you need it there. But do not use words unnecessarily everywhere. That's why it's very important to make our communication effective, to make our communication to better, the way we were using it and the way we are going to use after we are going to learn all these things. And the last part under verbal communication, I want to discuss about using slangs, which is way common these days. Well, by all means, you can use your slangs. Hey, what's up, bro? Come on, dude. You can use all these things when you are with your peer group. There is nothing bad about it. The slangs are the words which are actually accepted by a society, but they need not necessarily grammatically correct or wrong. But what makes it important is that you cannot use slangs in your professional talks. You cannot use your slangs when you're writing formal letters, when you're writing applications, or when you're doing any write-ups which is formal. And if you're going to use your slangs, nobody's going to appreciate it. If you want that your boss should have a look at that, if you want that your resume should be picked up by people, you have to really work on the portion or the way we are putting the words in writing or in speaking. Well, these all were the things about the verbal communication. Now let's go to the next portion, which is the non-verbal communication. This is basically my favorite part. We think that when we speak we communicate, but that's not completely true. We actually communicate. Most of the portion of our communication is actually non-verbal. So it's not only the words that we speak, but it's our body language. It's the various factors. I'm going to line them one by one. So let's just have a look at that. So the first thing is your body movement. How you're using your body. We in ourselves, we have lots of things how we convey message to others. It does not only mean which words we are using, but what is our body language? Are you just standing in a group and you're folded your hands and you're shrugging your shoulders and nodding your head when it's actually not kind of giving good signals? That means that you're not acceptable to the discussion which the other person is doing. and the other person can definitely feel himself or herself out of that discussion and probably will not be able to continue talking. So that is not much appreciated, because as human beings we want to be socially accepted, and in order to do that we need to give respect to others as well if we want that somebody should listen to us in future. So we should be really mindful of our body languages, our body movements. And some people, they have a problem, won't say a problem, but we call it mannerism. Some people, they'll keep on, scratching their head when they're talking, or they're kind of, scratching their face or something, they'll have continuous hand movements. Sometimes I feel I do my hand movements a lot. That's called mannerism. So we have to work on our mannerism. So yes, we are anxious sometimes. We are sometimes, when we are going for those formal interviews, we get that little bit of butterflies are there in our stomach always, but we should try to hide them, because if those things are empowering that moments of your session, your points are going to go down. So we really have to work on our body movements. Okay, and then the other thing comes the physical appearance. Now, physical appearance, I do not mean by a person who looks handsome or beautiful by appearance, no, but it's the way what kind of clothes you wear, how you make your hair, like there are various things. There's always a purpose, in office you wear your jacket or your formals. You do not go to office becoming a Christmas tree. I mean, like, you cannot just dress up like you're going to a wedding when you're actually going to office. And you cannot go to a wedding by wearing the office attire. So everything is for a reason. So we really need to be mindful the way we dress up wherever we are going. So it has to match with the occasion. It has to match with that particular time, because otherwise we will not be accepted in that group, or we will not be accepted in that scenario. The other thing is, which is another important part of communication, that is giving a person space. We have to be greatly mindful of giving a person space, or have an idea how much distance you have to maintain from the other person. Now, being in Asian portions like India, if you're getting too close in a discussion to another female partner or your female colleague, it will not be accepted. You can have lots of rumors about yourself behaving in that manner. So please be very careful. Not only this, various countries, various cultures will have a different beliefs of how much personal space they are giving to the other person, or to the unknown person, or to friends, or to colleagues. So there's always a difference. So we have to understand what is our categorization in the life of the other person, whether you are a friend of that person, are you a boss of that person, are you a colleague to that person. So it really matters. So personal space will definitely depend on what is your role in the life of the other person. So be mindful of this as well, because that will definitely give you good points, and that can bring you down to the bad moods of that person as well. And the other, which is linked to personal space, is touching somebody. In various cultures, it will not be accepted if you are touching the other person. And it also depends where you are touching the other person. Sometimes touching on the head in few cultures will not be considered as, a good, maybe because of the religious point of views, or when you're touching, other body parts of some people, that will not be accepted socially. So it has to be really, you have to understand which is the society, which is the culture where you are right now, and you have to behave accordingly. These are really very important things. Maybe you haven't said anything, but when you have done all those things, you will see those reactions, because maybe you will not be invited for the next upcoming meetings which were actually lined up for you. So please be mindful of all these things. Then the other thing is your body language. So as we discuss about body appearance, as we discuss about touching, as we discuss about giving a person space, we also, the body language also comes in this. So there is not only a spoken language, there is a body language. So all these things is actually going to give, your body also speaks, right? So we have to be mindful of what we wear. We have to be mindful of our hands, our mannerism, our actions, our movements, how we sit, how we fold our hands. If you're continuously looking at the clock, if you're sitting with someone, the other person feels that you are not interested in the person's talk. So you will not be accepted in that meeting or in that group. So we have to be really, really mindful of giving wrong signals to the other person. Maybe sometimes those things go on our head, but keep them into your head or keep them to yourself. Do not let those things become visible to the other person. So that's the key factor to communicate better. It's not, I'm not telling you all to remove those things, because I know, you know that you have to leave by this time, but there are some gentle ways of doing that rather than offending somebody. So please make note of all these things. I'm sure these things are going to work up for you to sit in the interviews, to be, accepted in a group of people, formally or, informally. So try to use these techniques and to improve your communication. And among the non-verbal communication, I was like going through what should be like, why is it important? Then just two names came in my mind. You all know Charlie Chaplin. He didn't speak a word, but people laughed whatever he did. He put smiles in people's faces just by his appearance, his body language, his gestures, his mannerism. So now you can better understand that how even non-verbal communication is far, far important than verbal communication. And why we are even forgetting Mr. Beans? He didn't speak even anything. And still, everybody, like, I know you all know Charlie Chaplin, you all know Mr. Beans, and we are a fan of these people. So please understand that it's not only your words, but your actions do matter. And this was all about communication for now. Please keep watching, keep liking, subscribing, and do write comments below that what all you want me to talk about in my next upcoming video. There are some another good stuff coming on. See you in my next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Take care.